Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Peace be with you. This is video 5. This is sayings of my parents between chapter 1 and chapter 2 of my book, Moses to Muhammad in 60 Years, that I'm reading to you all. Due to the circumstances that are happening in the world today, I am foregoing trying to get this thing out and published and bound and or put online and try to sell anything. I think people have other things on their mind they need to buy more, but this is important to share. I don't want to sell my invitation to people about who I am and what my life's about. I want to share this freely. And then Allah will do with me what He will. I trust Him. He's my provider. And that's the story. As my mother used to say, that's the story. All right. I'm in the axioms and sayings of my parents. We just finished Mickey Mantle could catch a fly ball in a paper bag. That's what he used to say to me when he couldn't find a decent left-handed glove for me in the Midwest in the Bible Belt, Missouri in the 50s. Okay, moving along. My father, as I mentioned before, he always used to say accept it about everything. He was, like in the dictionary next to the word stoic, is like a picture of him or something. It's like he was a very stoic man. He accepted. And I explained why I think that is. And there's another thing my father used to say that was like so enlightened. He used to just say, if he didn't like something, he didn't go on and on about his dislike for something or why. He would just say, that's not my cup of tea. And it's so beautiful. It seems like such a simple remark, but it is so eloquent. It is so elegant and eloquent, because at the same time he's saying he's not for this thing. He's not putting it down. He's not saying it's bad, it's good. He's just saying it's not for me. And he taught me about this when I was younger, and although I didn't always adhere to that, I spent time judging in my life, which I regret. But he laid it down there. He put it in my mind. He said he didn't like something. He would just say, that's not my cup of tea. Wouldn't spend much time on stuff he wasn't into. He didn't go on and on about stuff he didn't like. So that's a really good one. Not my cup of tea. You're saying you don't like something without putting a yuck on it. Really good. His mother was from England. Maybe that's where he got it from. Because it's a cup of tea, Now, my mother always used to say, and that's the story. Whenever she wrapped anything up, it would be like, that's the story. They both always said, always get everything in writing. And I found out later, Muhammad, peace be upon him, said the same thing. When you're doing business, even with your family, get it in writing. Not because you don't trust, but people forget stuff. People misunderstand stuff. Families get split up. Friendships get split up. Put it in writing. And they used to say, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all, which is something else that Muhammad, peace be upon him, said. I believe before the mass conversion to Judaism that occurred in Eastern Europe in the Middle Ages as a result of politics, you can look that up, the whole history of Khazaria, how the Eastern European Jews converted to Judaism. It was like a political thing. It was the Khazarians were between the Christians and the Muslims, situated in between in a very strategic point in Eastern Europe. And in order to maintain their individuality, they simply chose to be Jewish instead of Christian or Muslim to maintain their separateness, individuality. Eastern European Jews called Ashkenazis mostly come from that pool from Khazaria. But before they were Khazars, before they were Jews, what were they? Who were they? And this is what I'm going to say here is I believe before the mass conversion to Judaism that occurred in Eastern Europe in the early Middle Ages as a result of politics, my ancestry could very well have been Muslim. My mother's parents were from Romania, and my paternal grandfather was from Kiev in the Ukraine, two places where there were significant numbers of Muslims at the time. The teachings and the wisdom of Judaism my parents imparted to me are very similar to the basic teachings of Islam. They have a common root source in Abraham, peace be upon him, centering on monotheism. I believe it is a chronology, a timeline, not a competition or a copycat thing. It was in their hearts either way, cultivated over centuries of family relationships that were rooted in one way or another in the authentic original religion of Adam, Enoch, Noah, Abraham, before there was such a thing as Judaism or Christianity. It is truly all one story. I'm going to start chapter 2. Today I am a man. In the Jewish religion, when a male child reaches the age of 13, there's a religious initiation called the bar mitzvah, meaning son of the commandment. That is the age when a boy becomes a man in the spiritual sense in Judaism. Puberty is the sign from nature that the fledgling adult is getting ready to work, fight, procreate, and especially take on full spiritual responsibility as a man before Allah in the congregation of the faithful. It takes 10 men, called a minyan, to hold obligatory prayers in Judaism in the synagogue. When a male turns 13, he is then counted as a man in the congregation. In contemporary American society, the bar mitzvah initiation is obviously not the same as it was back in the day. Among the more Orthodox Jews, it has retained more of the authentic meaning and purpose, and it still means universally, no matter what sect of Judaism, from ultra-Reform to ultra-Orthodox, that the young boy man now counts towards the minyan in order to hold group prayers. For the vast majority of American Jews who had become more conservative in their religious practices, who were almost forced to assimilate in this way to survive in American society, the bar mitzvah had been reduced to a memorized portion of the Torah, recited by the bar mitzvah boy man in front of the congregation on the appointed Sabbath Saturday morning in the temple synagogue nearest to his 13th birthday. And then there were the parties, which usually began with refreshments at the temple following the services, attended by the congregation at large, then traditionally a catered or homemade meal, attended by family and close friends. The guest of honor, the bar mitzvah boy, still called a boy in the expression, even though he had just become a man, also usually had a chaperone party for his close friends. My parents had given me a choice. Did I want a party for my close friends or a trip to Israel? That was a big deal back then. I chose the party. And to this day, I thank Allah for inspiring me to make that choice because of what has happened to so many Jewish kids who grew up drinking the toxic Kool-Aid of apartheid genocidal Zionism against the indigenous Palestinian people, thinking it was kosher Kool-Aid of Judaism. And look at them now. So many totally disillusioned and upset American Jews are now disassociating themselves from the country they once loved and dedicated themselves to, realizing now it is not what they thought it was, not what they were led to believe it was, seeing the intensely violent and barbaric atrocities being committed daily upon the indigenous people of Palestine. It is as if we are witnessing what happened to Native Americans and Africans at the hands of the white Europeans in real time, only now it is the Palestinians being oppressed by the Zionists. Same story, different characters. Being in real time, we can stop the oppression, or at least make an effort. The pen is mightier than the sword, if used righteously, and I pray that I'm doing so. And I'm at 9 minutes, so I'm going to stop right here. We're in the middle of the second. We're in the midst of the second chapter, to be continued.